Picture this for a second. You're finally home after a long day. You make yourself something to eat, maybe it's dinner, maybe just a late-night snack. You sit down on the couch, at the table, or even on your bed. But before the first bite ever reaches your mouth, something automatic happens. Your hand reaches for your phone, or the TV remote, or YouTube, or Netflix. Because sitting there in complete silence feels weird, almost uncomfortable. So the video starts playing, the podcast fills the room, the background noise kicks in, and only then do you actually begin eating. If that sounds familiar, you're far from the only person doing it. For millions of people, eating without a screen now feels unnatural. Silence during meals almost feels empty, like something is missing. But what most people never stop to ask is this: why? Why has it become so difficult to simply sit alone with food and our own thoughts for 15 or 20 minutes? Because the truth is, this habit usually has very little to do with entertainment, and it has everything to do with psychology. See, when you eat in silence, your brain suddenly has room to speak. And for a lot of people, that's exactly the problem. The moment external stimulation disappears, your mind begins filling the space. Thoughts start showing up. Worries creep in. Conversations replay themselves in your head. Regrets, stress, plans for tomorrow, anxiety about the future. What feels like silence is actually mental noise. Psychologists call this the brain's default mode network. Even when you're technically resting, your mind keeps working in the background. It replays memories, imagines future situations, and processes unresolved emotions. So if someone already feels mentally overwhelmed, silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels loud. And screens become the easiest escape. That video playing while you eat, it's not always there because you're interested in it. Sometimes it's there because it keeps you from hearing yourself think. For anxious people especially, empty moments can feel unbearable. The brain hates stillness because stillness gives unresolved thoughts a chance to surface. And eating is one of the few daily activities where there's nothing demanding your attention. No task, no pressure, no goal. Just you. For some people, that feels calming. For others, it feels like being trapped in a room with every thought they've been avoiding all day. So the screen becomes emotional protection. It keeps the brain occupied enough to stop deeper thoughts from rising to the surface. But anxiety isn't the only reason people do this. Sometimes it's loneliness. Human beings were never designed to eat alone all the time. For most of human history, meals were social experiences. Families gathered together, communities ate together. Food wasn't just survival, it was connection. So when someone sits alone in silence, the brain can quietly register that absence, even if the person doesn't consciously notice it. And this is where media becomes powerful. A podcast host talking, a YouTuber laughing, characters speaking on a TV show. Your brain partially treats those voices like companionship. Researchers studying parasocial relationships, the emotional bonds people form with online personalities and media figures, found that hearing human voices during solitary activities can reduce feelings of loneliness. That's why some people leave videos running even when they're barely watching. It's not about the content anymore. It's about presence. The sound of another human being makes the room feel less empty. And honestly, that's more common than most people realize. But there's another layer to this that people rarely talk about. A lot of people are deeply uncomfortable being present. Because eating without distraction forces you into the current moment. You notice the taste, the texture, your breathing, your thoughts, your emotions. You become aware of yourself. And many people spend their entire lives avoiding exactly that. Modern life trains us to constantly escape inward stillness. Every free second gets filled with scrolling, music, notifications, videos, or noise. The moment silence appears, we rush to kill it. Not because silence is bad, it's because silence reveals things. It reveals stress you haven't dealt with, loneliness you keep ignoring, exhaustion you've normalized, emotions you buried under constant stimulation. Mindful eating studies have repeatedly shown something interesting. People who eat without distractions usually eat slower, enjoy their meals more, and feel more satisfied afterward. But mindful eating requires something many people struggle with: being alone with themselves. No escape, no entertainment, no constant dopamine drip from a screen, just presence. And for a growing number of people, that feels almost impossible. So here's something worth trying. The next time you sit down to eat, pause before turning something on, just for a few seconds. Ask yourself one simple question. What am I trying to avoid feeling right now? Don't judge yourself for the answer, just notice it. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's boredom, maybe it's loneliness. Maybe your brain is simply exhausted from nonstop thinking. But that tiny moment of awareness can reveal more about your inner world than the video you're about to watch ever will. And maybe, slowly, you'll start becoming comfortable with silence again. Because silence is not empty. Sometimes it's the first place you actually hear yourself clearly. And if this topic hit deeper than expected, there's a lot more waiting for you here. This channel breaks down human behavior, hidden psychology, and the uncomfortable truths behind everyday habits most people never question. Subscribe and stick around. The next video might explain something about yourself you've never been able to put into words.